In this video, I start a new iRacing account, race open wheel cars for the first time, and scramble to meet my SR and NPR for the rapidly approaching end of season promotions.
This was a huge mistake.
But SimNoob, didn't you just complain that iRacing was too expensive? And now you gave them even more money for a second membership? The short answer is yes. But actually, there's been a little bit of an issue between iRacing support and me, and I'll tell you the story at the end of the video. For now, let's get into the racing. We are back in Rookies yet again, but this time with the Formula Ford 1600. After a few weeks of sports car racing experience, I'm going into this discipline with high confidence. I figure the skills I've gained in the MX-5 and the GR86 will definitely transfer over to the Formula Ford.
You sure about that?
They did not. Right off the bat, it's clear I'm out of my depth. No ABS, dogbox H-pattern shifting, and not even a pit speed limiter. On top of that, the car demands to be thrown into corners with trail braking for rotation, my biggest weakness. Every corner feels like a violent dance on the edge of grip, micro drifting just enough to carry speed without spinning. Even at my max effort, I was still 2 to 4 seconds off pace. Laguna Seca proved deceptively difficult for me as I tried to adapt to this new discipline.
Disqualified!
And I quickly gave up trying to shift with the H-pattern shifter and retreated back to paddles. It was just too many new things to learn all at the same time. I'll have to give that another go once I get more comfortable. Shoot. Also, somehow I rattled every single screw on the shifter loose, and I had to go on a side quest to take it all apart to lock tight things down. Let's just say my first attempts at open wheel racing were full of fat L's and long strides in the wrong direction.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I called it a night, hoping for a better start the next day. I wake up to notice that it is the final day of week 12, and the MX-5 Cup was at my favorite track, Summit Point.
I'm gonna come.
I could not help but deviate from open wheel for just 2 races. I had to start over in the rookie class in sports cars on the new account, and I also needed a confidence booster after my dismal performance in formulas last night. It was comfort food for the ego, and honestly, it worked. Nothing like some smooth laps and minimal incidents to remind yourself, hey, I'm not completely bad at this. The time ticked over to the start of the next week, and it was Okayama full for the Formula Ford. Okayama turned out to be another struggle. Think Mario Kart, but without the fun power-ups. Just raw aggression, poor spatial awareness, and random acts of violence. Every time I would make a small amount of progress, I would either get blindsided or make a mistake and take another big step backwards. Maybe the series is too popular, attracting overly aggressive drivers, but the racing felt chaotic. Even with the experience of avoiding bad drivers in MX-5 rookies, I kept getting wrecked, despite giving others as much space as possible. At one point, I was certain someone wrecked me on purpose, or at the very least, criminally negligent. After 2 rear-end crashes with the same guy in back-to-back races, he had the nerve to tell me over voice chat, "If you're slow, you should move." Buddy, that's not how racing works, and you certainly can't drive through people. I watched him on replay do the exact same thing to another driver after he crashed into me.
Oh, come on, man.
I could feel my face and ears turning red from the fury boiling my blood.
The audacity!
It took 3 days to get out of Formula Rookies, and not leisurely days, but hardcore binge sessions.
Jesus H. Christ.
Even after making it to D-Class, I wasn't out of the woods yet. Next, I decided to see how quickly I could get out of sports car rookies to compare to the time it took to get out of Formula rookies. The MX-5 Cup was at Charlotte Roval, so I hit practice to learn the track. My lap times were really bad, but I just needed to avoid incident points. 2 races at Charlotte, combined with my earlier races at Summit Point, got me out of Mazda rookies.
Too easy.
But once I got out of rookies in the 2 classes, I realized the quickest way to get back to my C-Class license was through end-of-season promotions, and the deadline to meet the requirements was coming up. I had to jump at the opportunity. Coincidentally, the D-Class production car challenge was also at Charlotte Roval, so I jumped into my trusty GR86 and thought I was gonna get a 2-for-1 at Charlotte. This turned out to be a terrible mistake.
Holy shit.
To my surprise, the race was at night, Le Mans style start, with a field of nearly 40 cars. I ended up with 15 incident points and got wrecked out of the race. I cut my losses early and switched gears to learn the Rudskogen track for the GR Butt Kicker Cup. I had a tough time setting competitive lap times there too. The double right-handers downhill trail braking followed by flat-out uphill chicanes were very fun but quite challenging. I had trouble finding time for the final corner leading up to the front straight too. And I was recognized for the first time there. Thanks for saying hi. 6 races later, I had enough SR for the season end promo. Now, I just had to go back to Formula 1600 one last time. The D-Class Formula Ford Thrustmaster Trophy was at a rainy Tsukuba, a track that I was familiar with, but not in the rain. Tsukuba in the rain was the final boss, but surprisingly, the Formula Ford felt kind of nice.
Very nice.
I don't want to say I liked it because the sim gods might hear me and take it back, but yeah, it wasn't bad. I was mentally preparing for disaster, but to my surprise, the 1600 drove phenomenally in the wet. The rotation felt slower, giving me more time to react and correct with small brake or throttle adjustments. It only took 2 rain races to have enough SR for the promotion.
Oh no, I'm short 2 races.
But I had to do 2 more to meet the 4 race MPR. I had finally achieved all that I set out to do, even though it took all week. It felt great to finally put away the sim rig and sit down to work on this video. I think part of the reason it takes so long to rank up in iRacing is because you have to drive on their schedule. For my drifting video, I could just drive by myself on my own and just go non-stop. Even with formula races scheduled every half hour, there's still a lot of downtime with free practice, qualifying, and waiting for people to line up on the grid. The other big reason is that other people can mess with your progress with the no-fault incident point system. The fact of the matter is, you are trying to learn how to drive a new car among a slew of other drivers learning to drive a new car, while all of you are trying to finish the race in the best position possible at a track you probably don't know. Beginner overconfidence plus inexperience leads to more incidents, which explains why I had such an easier time getting out of Mazda Rookies this time. I already learned the car the first time, so I could focus on dodging everyone that was still figuring it out. Alright, so, about the iRacing support drama. I did pay for a second account with my channel name as my display name.
Oh, look at Mr. Moneybags over here.
And I went with a second membership because I wanted to keep my first membership for personal use and did not want that altered. I am aware that usually their policy is to require real names, but they have an exception to allow pseudonyms for confidentiality or privacy reasons. Check. I ticked that box because I was planning on hosting community races with channel members and Patreon sometime in the future. As for the rules of the pseudonym, all they said was it had to be a real first name and a real last name. What? And who decides what names are real or fake? Names can literally be whatever you want them to be. They are all made up. For example, look at Elon Musk's son, and also the naming culture in Asia. So I check if Noob is a last name that exists in the world, and check. It exists to some extent, mostly in Southeast Asia and a little in the US and Canada. As far as the first name Sim, I've personally met someone by that name. So I thought that was good enough reason to sign up as SimNoob. But nearly after a full week of grinding SR on this account, I got an email from iRacing saying that the name breaks their terms of service and I'm required to change it. Apparently someone filed a protest for my display name? Dude, what? Who hurt you? I really tried my absolute best to keep this name and explain my reasoning, but the customer support agent was extremely rude, telling me that it is not up for discussion.
I'm for real. I'm for real. So you better check yourself.
And told me that I have 1 week to change it or I face suspension on the account. I was also trying to ask them to clarify what is allowed and what is not allowed before I asked them to change it, but they just straight up ghosted me. How am I supposed to change my name if you just ignore my emails and my live chat? Like, do I just throw a name into the void in the form of a support email and hope it goes through? Like, can you at least tell me yes or no? This is honestly the worst customer service I've dealt with in a long time. It's not like I was trying to be malicious or cause problems intentionally. I just want to maintain my privacy with this name that I find is reasonable. I did hear back eventually the next day, and I ended up changing it to Simboon. Took inspiration from Dave Camp for the backwards spelling. Anyway, I really hope you guys don't have to deal with their support line because it is a straight up mess. And to the guy who filed a protest to make me lose my name, you suck. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? Or is the CS agent a jerk? Or is the blame split among the involved parties? Please do let me know. I'm always open to constructive criticism. I want to thank everyone for all of your suggestions. This was by far the most requested video. I'm curious to know how many of you guys suggested this discipline with sadistic intent of watching me struggle and pull my hair out in frustration. Regardless of your intentions, I really appreciate everybody that left a comment with what you wanted to see from this channel.